All right, welcome back to the Rub Dirt On It podcast. I'm Coach Brian. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Coach Brandon Bookstaver. Thanks for joining me today on the couch. So what we like to discuss here at the Rub Dirt On It podcast is youth sports. And as a fellow youth baseball coach and even a basketball coach, just want to get your perspective on all things youth baseball development, and then just general coaching and your love for the games. And so that's the kind of the stuff we're going to talk about. My first question for you is, what do you do that allows you to be able to coach and volunteer so much? Because we aren't paid to do what we do. And it is one of those things that I'm very curious about in other youth coaches, what they do.
Yeah, great question, Brian. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here, man. Certainly I love coaching, and I took a job right out of training as a faculty member at the University of South Carolina. And with that type of job, there's some autonomy there. And with that, you have to be there to teach, and you have to be there for your particular meetings, but you can also do a little bit of creating your own schedule. So if I need to get up and work at 6 a.m. to get things done, or put in some extra hours in another day, the flexibility is there. And so I've been able to capitalize on that a little bit. And teaching is coaching. So there's kind of a mutual benefit there too, where I actually learn some things through coaching that I can take right back into the classroom and even share with my colleagues. So it does have its mutual benefits for the university as well.
So how many classes do you teach?
Well, it depends. I teach primarily in the College of Pharmacy. So I'm a pharmacist by training. Then I specialize in infectious diseases. And so I teach mostly related to infectious disease stuff. What that means is antibiotics, for example, or viruses or bacterial infections. Teaching how to choose the right drug for the right bug, so to speak. I teach a little bit at the medical school and the PA school as well. Same type of environment.
So do you have a specific class schedule every week, or is it just you kind of pick up classes here and there? And
good question. So I coordinate a class. So in the fall, it's a little more programmed. But the way we operate at the College of Pharmacy is you're really teaching to your expertise. And so you may teach 4 or 5 classes on your area in a separate course. Okay. And then you may bring in somebody who's an expert in cardiology to teach a little bit. And then you're teaching in this other course. And that'll spread across the 4 years of the curriculum too.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So do you also practice as a pharmacist?
I do also practice as a pharmacist. So part of our faculty appointment, is I'm over with Prisma Health Richland, and I'm there 5 or 6 months out of the year where I'm practicing as an infectious disease pharmacist, mostly on the inpatient side, which means I'm working with physicians to help choose the right antibiotics for patients, essentially. And the school sees that, just so you're aware, as I'm also teaching. I'm generating research while I'm there. You don't want somebody who's not in practice to come and teach and talk about it to the students. So that is still a mutual benefit for the school and the hospital and me as well.
Did you go? You went to USC?
I did.
I did straight go to USC. Nice.
Yeah.
What sports do you coach?
Well, primarily I coach baseball, but I do coach basketball right now, and I have coached flag football a little bit. During COVID, there's a little bit of flag football in there with the shortage of coaches. They pulled me in over at the Y for a year, but mostly baseball and basketball for my kids.
So did you play baseball? What's your athletic background?
Sure. Yeah, I played baseball through the end of my high school career down at South Aiken High School in Aiken. Mostly just recreational other sports. Then I became an intramural junkie once I got to college, and that was a lot of fun.
So baseball is your favorite sport?
Certainly, baseball is my favorite sport. I've always been just intrigued by the mind part of that. And some people love that and some people don't, but there's so much more going on the field than what people realize, the decisions being made. So I think that attracts me to that sport the most. And it was the one I was, best at. And so there's that love for it.
Yeah. Do you now, I know the answer, but you coach baseball for Ben Lippen?
I do. So this is my second year helping to coach JV baseball there.
So are you the head coach of JV or just the assistant?
No, I'm an assistant. And I primarily work with the infielders. I'm working a little more with the infielders on varsity this year as well, but I'm one of the three main coaches for JV there.
What position did you play?
I played mostly second base.
Okay.
We in high school you move around a little bit, and we had two different coaches during my high school career. So I was a little bit of utility as I got older, filling in when people would come into pitch. So I played some third, a little bit of short, center field, but mostly home was second base for me.
Well, I certainly have enjoyed having Hollis on your teams last summer, fall, 2 teams in the fall. Like the amount of teams that rack up, it's crazy. And the funniness of it all was part of that question I asked last night about, do we have every coach that we need? Because I knew going into it we were very tight on how many coaches, and having 9 minor teams this season is incredible.
It is.
Like, obviously, if you guys don't know, I coach at Trentham Little League. Brandon is the vice president of baseball at Trentham Little League. So we have that connection, and it is phenomenal how big and how much we've grown just in the last 5 years since I started. Can you elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we're pushing 700 kids now registered across from T-ball to really we're talking majors. We'd love to add the juniors and seniors. So many kids drop off of playing baseball after 12 years old. Some of it is, they get into other activities. School ball starts then, quote unquote, but also the field gets bigger. They're no longer playing on 60-foot bases. And so we'd love to add that. But if you're just talking 12 and under, I mean, we've got almost 700 kids across baseball and softball. And
that is incredible.
It is. We've seen about a 20% increase, too, in minors, particular on the baseball side. And I love that because that means we're keeping talented kids here. We're keeping kids interested that are having fun, that want to stay in the league.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's
well,
exciting.
I mean, last spring, I guess we had around 144-ish coach pitch kids, right?
Yes.
And now we have 110, I think you said, around there for minors. So
yes.
All of those kids that are making it through coach pitch in the minors, that's a really great thing. So that's what I was getting at is I knew you guys were short a coach, and I had asked Hollis on the way to school, I was like, what do you think about me coaching minors? He was like, no, I don't want that. Nah. I'm like, what? I want to be on Coach Brandon's team. I'm like, well, first of all, it's a draft. You're not guaranteed to be on his team. And I was like, so he got a little pouty, and I was like, look, it actually would help. One of the motivations, and it sounds bad, but it's true, is you coach, you control the schedule.
You do.
So last season, I was not able to get to very many of Hollis's games.
Right.
Like 1 or 2, barely practices more, but less on the game side because I have 2 other teams I'm coaching.
Right.
If I had 3, I can't be in 3 places at once,
That's
2 places at once. So I'd be able to get to more of his. He's like, okay, well, if you have to. I was like, all right.
If you have to,
if you have to,
if you have to, Dad.
He kind of sees that. He's like,
understand.
He always like, why you always brag on that schedule stuff? I'm like, because it's important.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you're balancing your whole family, that's a lot of schedules.
Yeah.
And you're talking one sport right now with just baseball. I mean, it really multiplies when you go beyond that.
And it's part of that. I wanted to get involved. Originally, I got involved because it was like, I'm going to be at all the practices. I might as well give while I'm there.
Sure.
They'll probably have a better experience than some dad who just got pulled into it because there was no one else to do it.
Absolutely.
So there's only a short amount of time, and I definitely don't believe in specializing, and I know you don't either. But I want them to play as much sports as possible for as long as possible, because eventually when they get to high school, junior high, it's going to start to dwindle off. So play soccer, play baseball every summer, every spring, every whatever. Play them both at the same time.
Yep.
So by getting more involved, though, fortunately, I've been able to build, a reputation enough to say, hey, I need Tuesdays.
Right.
Just give me Tuesday. So Tuesday or Thursday, whatever works out, is my soccer day.
Mm-hmm.
So this year, I'll have 2 teams, the 4-5s for Jacob. And we'll practice at 5:30.
Okay.
And 8-9s, I'm having Everett play up with Hollis and the 8-9s. And we'll do that at 6:30 on Tuesday. Mm-hmm. And then Saturday mornings, games. Mm-hmm. And what I've always loved about Trentham is that no games on Saturday.
That is true. No, it allows what you're talking about, right? It allows people to, and even if it's not a sport, it allows them to do other things on a Saturday morning, and I love that. I will say one of the things that we've done as a board this year is try to be more consistent with our nights of play for each division.
Yeah.
That as a parent, you can say, okay, I can get a little more of a rhythm here where we're going to be playing Mondays and Wednesdays, or we're going to be playing Tuesdays and Thursdays of each week. And we had done that a little bit, but there was a much more concentrated effort this year to develop that rhythm. And I think while it's hard on the schedulers, they have all these fancy tools to help you schedule. The problem is the algorithms aren't built for everything. When you have as many fields as we now have with all these kids, when you have folks that are coaching across different divisions, you have to put the exceptions in. The exceptions kind of send a kink into some of these automatic scheduling things. Yeah. So there's a lot of manpower that's done with that. And we have 3 folks that are on a scheduling committee, and I think they've done a really good job. So we're hoping to get that out soon, and it's going to help. I think it's going to help folks plan.
So does Maddie play any sports?
She does. She plays basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, we got her into t-ball and then baseball, but she has the personality of, she's very shy and introverted, and she loved playing in the field. And at home, even as a 3-year-old, I could toss it to her, and she had good back control, and I was like, great, man, this is really cool, Well, we get out there on the field, and the first time through, they are like, go, Maddie, when she came up to bat, and she looked around and she was mortified that she's now on the spot and everybody's cheering for her. So she did okay that first year, but as we went on, reluctant to go to bat. The second year we played t-ball, she hit one time and played the field. All the other times she refused. So that wasn't her sport. She just said, I'll play in the yard, but I don't really want to. So every now and then, if Aaron and I are, playing catch in the front yard, she'll try to grab a bat. We kind of unloaded some of her gear, though, so she doesn't have this gear, so she'll just have to carry his heavy bat out there and try to do something. But she does like basketball. Yeah. Aaron got a little dribble up a couple of years ago for, I'm talking about where
the yellow ball.
Yes, the yellow ball, and you scan it and whatnot. And so Maddie started doing that. And then she just said, I want to play basketball, Dad, and, will you coach me? And I said, sure. And I'm by no means an expert in basketball by any stretch of the imagination.
Did you play in high school?
Not basketball.
Oh.
I played church league.
Okay.
But by no means. I love college basketball, and I love enjoying watching it. But at that age, she's just turned 6, and so it's still, you can teach the fundamentals of the game at that level. If I'm coaching 12, 13, 14, I'm out. But
once there's strategy involved.
Once there's a lot of strategy involved. I still got zone defense. We can set up a diamond press, but now we're,
That's kind of how I feel about soccer. Like the next level up from soccer from the 8-9s, I'm done. You're going to have to pass it off.
Understood.
And that's kind of the fun part about coaching youth sports is you get them primed and ready, and you get them to learn the game. You get them to enjoy the game.
Yeah.
And then you pass them off. And fortunately for me, fortunately, I got another one. So
you're locked in.
I'm locked into the youth, and by the time I'm ready to pass off, Jacob Briggs will be coming right behind him. So it'll be fun like that. So getting kids ready to go, getting them ready for the game. Tell me about your coaching philosophy. I know you have a very specific one that you use and talk and preach. Mm-hmm. So I just wanted you to kind of elaborate on that.
Sure, absolutely. We and you're right, you're aware of this, but it's this PGRW acronym that we often call out, and it's play the game the right way. There's a lot of aspects to that. For me, it's going beyond the actual talent and the playing of the game, but it's how you're approaching it. So I'll ask the kids, describe to me, what do you think playing the game the right way means? And we'll talk back and forth, but are you being a great teammate? Are you coachable today? And it's today, it's not every day for these youth, but are you coachable today? Are you hustling things out? Because baseball is a hard game, and that's one of the things that we describe to them is, you fail 7 out of 10 times, you're still going to the Hall of Fame, and it's how do we approach that? And so I really, really harp on that of PGRW. I want that to be instilled, but it goes beyond the players too. We got to coach the game the right way. We often say that our kids, a lot more is caught than taught, and so they're going to follow our example. If we're constantly arguing with the umpires, then they're going to see that as okay. Mm-hmm. The fans, our parents and families are going to see that as okay. And so that's an important thing to me. Sometimes I've asked, my son or a group of the kids or even at Ben Lippen, I'm like, what if Jesus played baseball? How would he play it the right way? And so, you approach it with that kind of mindset of, yes, he will be kind, but I bet he's going to be very competitive and he's giving effort. There is a way you carry yourself on the field. And so I'm very fundamental based too. I don't like to skip steps. You can tell the difference in kids who spend time on a tee, who spend time learning form. And I challenge them, and some like that and love it and others don't. But I think as long as they know you care about them and that you appreciate them and we reward them, then they enjoy that, and they want more and they keep coming back for more. So we even have a sign now for the dugout, so they're going to be able to, steal
kind of like play like a champion.
Yes, stealing a little bit out of Notre Dame's playbook here.
Nice.
Okay, I know other places do it, but they're kind of famous, right?
Yeah.
But we're going to have a PGRW on the dugout, and so they got to remember that each time they're in and out of the dugout of that way, because you're playing the game in baseball, and sometimes this is hard for youth. Is baseball, you may stand out in the field for 3 innings and not get a ball. You may wait 2 innings to bat again. Not everybody is the pitcher and the catcher where they're constantly engaged. And so teaching them the fundamentals of there are other things that are happening that you need to be doing. It could be as simple as encouragement. That's part of playing the game the right way. You make a mistake, well, you need to encourage your teammate that they got to forget about it because that ball is going to find you. That ball will find you, And then they make a great play. Let's encourage them on that too. And so I'm a big fan of that. We often give game balls out, and we will give a game ball certainly for performance, and because I think people confuse this with not being competitive. It's okay to try to win. It is okay to try to win. And it would be silly to say that it's more fun to lose than win, because that's the total opposite philosophy. It is more fun to win. It is. And there's nothing wrong with that.
That's why we keep score.
Right. Exactly. There's nothing wrong with that. And so I don't ever want that to disappear from the mentality of sports, because we need folks to know. People that are competitive can be successful in life too, especially when they're self-competitive and they get driven in that regard. So that's another thing we try to instill in them. But we'll give the game balls away for talent, but we also give PGRW balls away, which encompasses how have you practiced lately? Not just how have you played in the game, but how have you practiced lately? Do I see a different mentality? Is it, are you very coachable? Are you hustling? Are you helping a teammate out? Are you listening and then processing, and I see a difference there? Or are you kind of chatty Cathy in the corner and, not really paying attention? And they're young, and we're, we have to give them grace, of course, for some of these things. But, that to me is critical, and it's rewarding things that that they've done that deserve rewarding. So it's now a step up from the T-ball trophy mentality.
Right.
Not everybody's getting a game ball every game. It's the person that, they went 3 for 3 with a double, or they threw a runner out that, saved a run, and that was just an incredible play. We need to reward that. And so I hope that gives them a strong feeling of, I taste that. I want some more of that.
So as I've been able to observe Hollis on your team, I've definitely picked up some things, stolen some things that I've applied in other areas. And I think you do a great job of keeping things loose and fun, even at the same time trying to be competitive and teaching fundamentals, right? Which is a very hard balance to do.
It is. No, I agree.
You did something for Rise where you let the kids put a pie in your face. Now, where did that come from, and what sparked that energy or thought you'd want to do?
Yeah, that's a funny one. I've done it for a couple of other teams in the past, and one of the things that we try to give them, sometimes if you're only working on fundamentals and it's rep after rep after rep, I mean, even a 9 or 10-year-old, and we're not even at that age level yet. We're kind of a little bit below that. They're going to get tired of that. They're just going to get tired. And so instead, let's give them a goal to reach. It's like, hey, we're about to hit 20 ground balls around the infield here. If we get 14 out of 20, so 70% successfully fielded and thrown across the diamond or to whatever you're directed to do, now I give them an incentive, and I want them to have fun and be playful with it. And sometimes I know that they can probably get frustrated with the coach. It's like, oh man, he's dogging me again for this. I got to go run a poll because I was, chatting and not listening. And so I want them to know too that I can be a kid at heart, and this game is meant to be fun. You don't ever want to lose sight of that. It's like, and so to me, it's just bringing a little funny. We do have some silly folks on our team too. Okay, we've got some silly folks on our team, and so that gives them a little chance to shine too. And then some of maybe the more introverted ones that would never dream of being able to do it, they get real excited, and I can see it in their eyes. They barely speak at practice, and boom, they got the pie ready to go. So it's been good returns, and it's been a fun way to create an incentive where they don't even realize they're getting better. Right. But they have a goal to reach and then a reward on that.
That's awesome. What would be some tips for other coaches getting into it? Maybe they haven't ever done it before, and specifically, you get them for an hour and a half once a week. How do you get them to improve throughout the season? What are some of those tips you might have for people?
Yeah, good question. I think ideally you're working in smaller groups than a big group if you can. We sometimes run practice, and this almost like camp style sometimes, where we'll have stations set up and they'll rotate through stations. And what that does is it increases reps in a concentrated way. If this does mean you have to have some good assistants that are with you, and that is very critical when you have a large number of kids to reach at a time. And when I say large, I mean even if we had 14 or 15, breaking them up into smaller groups is critical. So I think that's one big piece. Two, we're being efficient with our time. We're not having a lot of downtime. So we don't want to create a line where you're waiting 4 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes for the next thing you're doing. So, for example, one thing that we're going to implement more this year is somebody, they're coming up to bat, and, let's say we're using a machine and they're hitting live on the field. Well, we're taking live reps off the bat in the field. So now they're getting a more of a real life type of picture there. But the key to that, and I'll come back to that real life thing, is in the on-deck circle, we're going to have the screen set up with tees right there. So the 1 or 2 people that are on deck, they're going to be hitting off a tee with protective screens in front of them. So now we're not even wasting time for downtime there. Sure, they can be timing the pitch and other things, but we're working on those things too, where they're still at the fundamental stage. So that's a big thing. Last 2 things I would say is please don't skip the fundamentals. This came up in basketball the other day where they're like, man, you really make sure the kids are dribbling down the court as opposed to taking the ball and running. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's fun for them to take the ball and run like they're carrying it like a football. that's not going to help them or prepare them for the next level. And again, it's fun to get better too. Like the kids love it. The parents love it too when they can see their kids getting better. So please don't lose sight as a coach of still instilling fundamentals. Don't skip those, even though they may not quite be as fun. So you sneak them in when the kids don't even know they're doing them, you know, the on deck circle with the tea and stuff. And the last thing I'll say is you need to mimic real game-like scenarios with them as well. And so in basketball, a lot of people like to scrimmage and things like that. In baseball, it's a little bit harder. You just don't have that number.
You typically have 18 kids on the team.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to set up a 9-on-9.
Except for Rise, but
yeah, I know, except for Rise, but that's okay. It's good development. But we, that live at bats, if you will, setting the machine up that we're doing at this level at Kids Pitch, then making sure that the folks in the field know we're treating this as live. You've got to field the ball, get it over to first. We'll let the kids keep running. So now there's a new scenario that constantly increases the IQ of the sport too. So coaches, make sure that too. You really want to harness in and improve IQ, because that's going to help them. If you have any kids that want to have aspirations of playing at a higher level, we see it at the high school level. I spend time with them just asking them at the high school level, hey, what would you do in this scenario right now? And put them in the coach's position. You'd be surprised. You can start that at a young age.
Sure.
And we'll ask them, and you've heard me do this, like we practice bunt coverages and we practice first and third situations at this young age, because even though they won't be perfect on execution, that's fine. They now realize, there's an importance in that. I need to recognize the situation. So sometimes then when they are rushed or nervous or there's more to it in a game, we've done it enough in practice where, hey, they surprise you. And you saw some plays. We made some plays in the fall that if we hadn't prepared them, I think situationally,
absolutely.
They were just, they were immaculate plays. And yeah, we're going to boot a ground ball and miss a foul. That's fine. But you can always see the wow moments. And I think that goes back to their IQ keeps going up and they recognize situations so much better when you spend time on that.
What do you think the biggest difference is between, the age group our son is in, the 8-9-year-olds, to the high school kids that you get to coach? That's a big difference.
Yeah, there's a couple of differences. I would say that
outside of the they're in puberty, little kids, that obviously is different.
Certainly the physicality there. I think by the time they're in high school, the funnel has narrowed quite a bit. In 2025, it was different when you and I played sports, at least to me. You just had a lot of people that showed up to try out, and it wasn't all predetermined. Like, you might not even known who the coach was till you came to tryouts. Now, there's just a lot more of, winter conditioning for 2 or 3 months. So you kind of already know who's going to be coming out for the team. It's just a little bit different. So the funnel's narrowed there. But one of the differences, those kids, especially the special talent ones, they're doing a lot of things on their own. They've gotten to the point where they see aspirations of, man, I might be able to do this even at the next level, and they're in the cage working by themselves, and they've developed the ability now to know what a problem is and adjust to it. And that our kids aren't at that level yet, where, I'm having trouble getting my hands through on a strike at the top of the zone. So then I'll see them pull the tee up to the strike of the zone, top of the zone, and work on that. And so that's probably the biggest difference, is they now have self-recognition of their deficiencies or areas that they are struggling in, and they can go work on them, or they get teammates together or ask a coach to help them with that. We'll have a first baseman who's struggling with holding a runner on and then getting back in his position real fast. So we'll make sure in fungo period that he's holding the runner on and delaying a little bit to work on that reaction time.
Are you pointing those things out to them so they can help recognize it, or do you think it's a natural development of just maturity and experience with the game?
It's a little bit of both. Certainly, there are some that are very very mature in their development and their game that they really can just self-recognize, and that's pretty cool, because you can, at that level, you can overcoach people. Walking into working on somebody, you don't have to find a big problem. you're not there as the coach just to let me find a problem. It's not always a problem, And we also focus a lot at that level on results, You may not have what somebody would draw up as a picture-perfect delivery or a picture-perfect swing, but there's really no one type of swing or one type of delivery or throwing motion that can accomplish the outcome, I mean, if you're batting 400, I'm not going there to tell you have a hitch in your swing. I'm not. Even if everybody looking at it would say, "Oh, I would never teach that."
Right.
But you've gotten to the point where you have mastered it and you are very good and effective.
It's clearly working for you.
Yes, it's clearly working for you. So there is a little bit of that. But then there's other things that they notice that they're, not able to charge a ball and make a strong throw. Well, then it might be a little thing. It's like, do you realize you're stepping with the wrong foot on your last approach step to field the ball? Let's change our footwork here to do that. They know there's a problem, but not always can they figure the solution out. So that's where I think we contribute as a coach to take a look at that and try to point that out.
Now, you mentioned earlier that coaching is teaching, and teaching is coaching, coaching is teaching. They're one and the same. What do you like about was there someone who influenced you growing up to want to do that? Mm-hmm. Was your dad a coach?
He was never a head coach. My dad was always an assistant coach. And he had an injury when he was in college that kind of prohibited him from doing certain things physically, but he was certainly invested in me in sports. He was always there. There was a presence there. Mm-hmm. He'd go out and throw with me or hit or whatnot. Even my mom, when I was really struggling with hitting slow pitching, she would go out there and make me sit back on the ball, which is currently my son's problem, which I'll just blame on being inherited, I guess. Although I've probably taught him a certain way that makes him that way, I guess, unintentionally. But he, and so they certainly, that had a strong influence on me. But I was never real close with my head coaches in baseball at South Aiken. I mean, they were fine. They were good. There wasn't a problem. I was never close with them, but I loved the game. I loved the aspect of being able to share and instruct, and I like to see growth and improvement. Like, that is fun for me as a person to see that in other people. So I went to college at USC as a math major thinking I might teach math and coach baseball at a high school. Mm. And then my other thought in my brain was I'd like to really teach in the health sciences as another option. But it was always teaching or coaching. It was always ingrained in that. And
are your parents teachers?
My parents are not.
Okay.
A lot of healthcare in my background.
Okay.
My aunt is a kindergarten aide, but she started that later in life after I had already graduated college. So, it is kind of interesting. I don't have that, necessarily influence of that particular angle, but I love the ability to share and then see folks improve on that. And engaging in youth it's fun. It kind of keeps you young, keeps you in the game. I'm not playing anymore, obviously. So,
do you have an example of something where you can think about tell us a story about a kid who saw a great improvement or overcame some obstacles or something where you feel like, I had a little influence into that?
Yeah, certainly. I think there's a couple of examples. To me, I always first base is the easiest example for me, and I could give you 4 or 5 kids right off the bat here. People just don't teach the fundamentals of how to play first base. It's like, just go catch the ball that's thrown. But there's a lot more to first base. And so we would often teach footwork around the base, and again, some people think of this as like, why are you wasting that time in practice to emphasize this? We're starting with our 2 feet on the base, heels on the base. We're watching the ball. We're not stretching too early. How to stretch even for the ball. And so little things like that, what happens is that what you get to see in the game is that there's a wild throw, but they didn't stretch too early. So what would have been a throw to the fence and gotten away, free base, probably 2 bases, we're able to catch that ball thrown up the line a little bit, and it turns it into an out. And that's something that to me is so cool and exciting, because people don't realize that because of the team aspect of baseball, when your shortstop or third baseman makes a wild throw, your first baseman can help him out.
Yep.
When your pitcher makes a bad pitch in the dirt or throws it to the backstop, your catcher can help the pitcher out. And it's a give and take all game long like that, all game long. You make a couple errors in the field, well, you need your pitcher to strike somebody out now to help you out for that.
Yeah.
And that's the fun aspect of that. So I think I've seen it at first base, and we've seen it a lot in our, for example, relays from the outfield to the infield. I mean, to me, we had one of the best plays of 8-year-old baseball when we had a relay throw come in from the outfield to the shortstop from the edge of the grass and gunned a kid out who should have been safe by a mile at home plate. Our catcher was in right position, so we had focused on how to stand at the plate to receive a throw there, and he was waiting on the person to make a tag, made an immediate tag, and everybody's kind of surprised it even happened. But if you don't practice those things and emphasize how to turn your body the right way, how to be looking for a runner, where the catcher should be standing, there's so many little aspects to it, but those are fun for me, because you get to see those, and you're like, well, we did practice that. Maybe that was a little bit,
That worked out,
Yeah.
So in that mindset of coaching successes, talk about a coaching success that you're proud of, that is something that, I am not your crowning achievement as a coach,
Sure.
but it could be, and it could also be something that certainly is going to evolve as you continue to do it, right? Like, your success today might not be the biggest success tomorrow.
No, absolutely. Can I take it outside the game to more of a little bit bigger level
Anything
setback?
you want.
We had an idea to start, and I say we because I've talked about it with you and others about starting a travel baseball team that I would say is outside the mold of the traditional travel baseball league. Okay, and so we took a leap of faith a little bit to work with Richland County to say, hey, we've got this idea. We want kind of a low cost travel baseball league. I mean, travel sports are expensive. They're expensive. They're a commitment. And we wanted a travel team that kept a core group of players with like talent together, because like talent does breed. Proverbs 27:17, iron sharpens iron, and these boys will sharpen themselves, boys and girls will sharpen themselves. We keep them around each other. So, Richland County was gracious enough to work with us on a low-cost league to be able to try to play some of these other teams. That's still in its infancy, but this creation of what we called Soda City Rise, a 9U and 10U currently, the idea is that we keep growing this. We were able to create what was both a low cost. We kept a number of players. You were joking earlier about having 18 players. Maybe it's not quite that many, but we kept a lot of players on our team because at this age, as you and I know, we don't want somebody to be playing baseball 12 months out of the year and 5 days a week.
Yeah.
That's a quick way for all these kids to not want to do it. And so it became, we didn't practice so frequently. We didn't have to play a game every weekend. We didn't travel across the state or southeast to do these things. And but it allowed these boys and girls to play something they enjoyed and get better as they did it. And the families to grow closer together. That's a cool part of this. So I'm real excited about it. It's only been going since August, but I'm really excited about where this is going to go. And it is fighting against the mold a little bit,
What's your vision for the future for Soda City Rise?
Yeah, I would love if we had, honestly, an 8U all the way up until these boys and girls would enter into a high school period almost. So an 8U to a 13U, maybe older, but at least to there. Because then you have some other bridge programs like American Legion and different things that they may get into. But then you're also keeping these kids interested in Little League. That's a big deal to me too. We see so often where talented kids will go join a travel team because they think that's the only way they can grow, and they leave the local little leagues. They leave to me, that's your community too, you know? And so my wife and I, we're big believers in that. Like, we want to be part of the community, and being part of a little league is that, that is the epitome of it. And so we love that. We don't want to leave that, I want to ride with little league as long as we can, and so I think we're going to be able to do that too, where we're keeping good talent in a little league system, Trenton Little League specifically, and excited. But yes, I would love where we continue to develop this further and expand it out. Again, keep our mantra though. We play the game the right way. We coach the game the right way.
Well, I really appreciate you being here and being on the show today. So I have this idea of ending every podcast with a trivia question. So give me a second to pull it up.
Oh man.
I'll give you a baseball trivia question.
Okay.
Because you are a baseball guy.
Whew. Here we go. Pressure's on.
All right. Here we go. Which Major League Baseball player has the highest batting average in a season?
Ted Williams.
Nap Naholi. 426.
Nap Naholi. Okay.
Yeah, that's never Lajoie. Nap Naholi. I don't even know who he played for. This was a random question. I'll give you a second one. Which MLB player has the highest batting average in their career?
Modern era, or are we going all the way back?
All the way back.
Oh, man. Let's go Ty Cobb.
Bingo.
All right, very good.
366.
Okay, very nice. Well, let me tell you when I asked our kids, and I'll tell you why I'm asking this, okay? Eddie Collins. There's this guy named Eddie Collins. Any idea what he's famous for in baseball? He's the all-time record holder in something.
Oh,
okay.
Getting hit by a pitch?
That's a great guess, okay? He's the all-time record holder in sack bunts. He has over 500 sack bunts, okay? And awesome. So I was talking to them about sacrifice, and that, sacrifice means you're giving up something valuable, and you only get to bat 3 or 4 times a game. So an at bat is very valuable. And, learning to sacrifice, learning to bunt, that's a skill that, you're probably going to be out, especially at the higher levels, you're going to be out 8 or 9 times out of 10, but you're giving yourself up to the betterment of a team, to your teammate, and how we celebrate that. And then I reminded them, he has the most sack bunts, but he's also in the Hall of Fame.
That's awesome. When you talked about what would Jesus do playing baseball, and I thought, well, he'd hit dingers, but then I was like, nope, he'd sacrifice.
He'd sacrifice. That's right.
That's right. Well, thanks for tuning in to the Rub Some Dirt On It podcast, or Rub Dirt On It podcast. That some gets stuck in there every once in a while, but see you next time. Thank you.